Hey everybody, welcome. So I know we're going to start right now. Like I said, this will be some kind of Do University opportunities. My name is Kelvin Jenkins. I am the CEO and founder of a company called AP Business Collective. Also, you may know me as Same Old New. Today, as our Friday sessions are going to start going, this is going to be more dedicated to the same old new. And that means individual leaders, individual people like yourselves looking for opportunities to grow in their own leadership or just looking for some tips and tricks, some ideas, some ways to think a little bit differently about leadership overall. And for those of you that are kind of on the fence whether or not I should go into leadership, I can go into leadership, and some of this is going to be for you as well. So let me adjust this really quick so that I can see you a little bit better. All right. So for today, I've had a conversation this morning, and I've also had a couple conversations leading up to this moment. As many of you know, I will be having a webinar coming up in about 12 days or so. And so you'll have an opportunity to join that as well. If you want more information, I'll drop that link inside of the description and in the comments. I'll make sure I put it there as well. One thing that's come up though is that people keep asking, "Can I really lead?" And there's this notion that you have to be ready in order to lead people. You have to be ready. And my first question to many of you, if you're watching this, my first question for you to even ask yourself is, what does ready mean? What does ready mean? And after you've answered what ready means, what does it look like? What does readiness look like? Because a lot of you are asking a question to yourselves that's really just based on a feeling and has no real grounding, no facts, nothing extra added into it. I'm guessing there's very little objectivity involved in your decision to say, I can't do it. Because I'll tell you this much, I know that you can all, everyone watching this, can name at least one, if not more, people who you can look at and say, "Oh, they were inside of a leadership role, but oh my goodness, like, ugh." You have those feelings, and those people are doing it, and you're saying that you're not ready. So help me understand why that is for you that you're not ready, and all these other people are doing it. And some of you may be saying, "Well, Kelvin, but the reason I know I'm not ready is because I don't want to be like them." Newsflash, just real quick, Jim Carrey on newsflash. You're probably more ready than you think. You probably are. You're probably more ready than you give yourself credit for. The fact that you already know that I don't want to do those things, you already know what you don't want your leadership to look like. Some people are ignorant to that fact. And so they begin to do the thing that everyone else around them detests because they don't know. And some people are just insert descriptor here. So today I kind of want to take you on maybe a slight journey. It'll be super short, right? These are quick sessions. These aren't meant to be long, but we're gonna jump into it if I can navigate some of the screen. As you all know, this is the second time I've gotten on here, third time, and so I'm still working out some of the kinks on the technical aspect. So let's see if this works. Oh, it does. Okay. So many of you are kind of here on this journey of leadership. Let me tap, tap. And you're wondering, like, where do I go from here? Like, how do I end up as this unicorn thing? This unicorn. Yeah, it looks like a cow. Don't worry. It's a unicorn, fluffy tail. And if I do some little rainbows, oh, be forgetting that I gotta click stuff. There you go, unicorn. That's gonna look real sad one day. So you're wondering how you become this unicorn thing. I know it looks ugly. Trust me, I get it. And you're asking like, how do I do this? Can I do it? Is that really going to be me? And I think maybe you should just reconsider that you can lead before the title. A title doesn't make you a leader. A title gives you maybe authority within a company. A title maybe provides you with better pay. A title might even provide you with some semblance of accomplishment. That's what a title will give you. A title won't give you influence. It won't. Influence is earned, influence is given. Influence is not something that you can demand from people. Title also will not give you leadership. You all know, I asked you the question early up, I teed you up for this. You all can think of some people who had the title and were not really leaders. They were managers, some of them were micromanagers, some of them were micro annoyances. You can call them whatever you want. Some of them were just people just really trying and just couldn't seem to ever figure it out. And I'm not, again, I will never like detest or deter anyone from wanting to go in that route. However, we have to be honest that not everyone that's doing it is doing it well. You can look globally, as you can look anywhere you want. You can find examples of people who have really big titles and very low leadership ability. So I have to ask you the question: will the title really change anything for you? Once you get it, what happens? What changes about you as a person? Very little changes about who you are. Who you are is who you are, and it can change over time, but it's going to be because you wanted it to change, not because a title was given to you. Now, there can be some extrinsic pressure, some outside pressure that makes you want to do more, level up, et cetera, et cetera. However, the intrinsic driver for you to want to just be a better person to lead others is always going to be something that comes whether you have a title or not. Some of you grew up in the 80s and watched Transformers and you remember Hot Rod, who didn't want to be, I'm going super like old, Hot Rod, who didn't want to be the leader of the Autobots, but he had leadership potential. And there was a spark that the Autobots used to have. They'd transfer the spark, I think it was the spark of leadership or something like that. But it was something inside of them. It wasn't just something that you could take and acquire. I think it was maybe it was the matrix of leadership. Anyway, and that spark is what drives us intrinsically to do certain things. So if you're one of those folks that's like, I gotta wait for the title, another news flash is it's not this. A title doesn't equal reps. So just because they say the thing, just because they're like, yeah, we want you to be the new manager of whatever, that doesn't mean you have the reps to do the job. It's a very different mindset that you have to start putting on. And so I'll be honest with you, you can get those reps before you take on a title. Some of you have children, some of you have spouses, some of you have parents who have gotten older and now there's role reversal. Some of you have siblings that are had a responsibility put on you from a young age. Some of you have had to take it on later on in life. And I will tell you that you've been practicing, getting a lot of reps in on how to lead in various situations over time. If you were just to take a step back and realize what situations in your life have you had to step up in order to lead a situation? And leadership doesn't always start from in front. Sometimes you have to lead from behind. Sometimes you have to motivate. Sometimes you have to ask questions. Sometimes you have to lead from a perspective that is not necessarily front and center, but it doesn't mean that you weren't leading. So again, it's not about the title, it's about the reps. And let's see here. I want to do something really quick. Go here. And I'm going to scribble a name that I will ask that you look up. Whoops, look up later. It's a little hard to do this with this mouse thing. I'm gonna work on this. Hermania Ibarra has a really good quote um, called Outside. All right. She's a behavioral professor at London Business School, known for research and professional identity. And she likes to talk about acting like a leader and thinking like a leader. And her core framework argues that leadership is developed through outsight, not insight. So you act your way into how you think. Now I know for some of you that might sound crazy, but let's write it out. How you act impacts how you think, and how you think impacts who you are. So the first step in this whole process isn't waiting for a title to show up. It's taking action. How you begin to act on a day-to-day basis. This is even shown up in James Clear, some of his work when it talks about the 1% better every day. It's the actions that you start to take that start to impact how you really think. And how you really start to think becomes who you are. And over time, it's not this dissonance that you're running up against consistently. What you start to notice is that I am this thing because I've made a decision to be this thing. And that's the same way with leadership. So again, oops, I'm gonna mess this up. This is important. How I act impacts how I think, will transform who I am. So some of us try to go this route. I'm going to think, and then that's going to change who I am, and that's going to change how I act. And that's not always the case, at least not in this. Now, is there some mindset? Yes, I'm always going to talk about mindset. I'm always going to navigate through that space. I'm always going to give you information on that. But self efficacy grows most from small wins. And so you taking the opportunity to even be on here is an action. It's a concept that Albert Bandura talks about, referring to an individual's belief in their capacity to execute behaviors. So you have to start taking some small actions first, and those small actions will begin to increase how you think. There was a baseball player, I can't think of their name right now, but they used to talk about, if I can grab it, um, they used to, success breeds confidence. So the more you begin to do a thing, the more you begin to see yourself being capable, the more you start to believe it's possible. And all that happens before a title ever shows up. All that happens before you ever become the new thing. So if you're on the fence about leadership and you're wondering, well, like, Kelvin, I hear you saying this, I hear you talking about it, like, but I don't know. I challenge you to just start taking some steps. What are 1 to 3 things that you know you want to do? Whether that's you want to embrace conflict a little bit better, maybe that you want to set expectations between you and your team members currently, you and your family, you and your spouse, you and your children. What are the things that you feel like you're not doing right now that you feel like are leadership? When you think leadership, what would make you ready? What are those things that you're calling out? 1 to 3 of those. And I challenge you to practice taking small steps for the next 2 weeks. 90 days is kind of the goal I want to get you to, but let's just try 2 weeks, 14 days. What are the things that you can do and you can implement among your peer group? So that's your friend circle. That's those you go to coffee with, whatever groups that you're in. I know a lot of people have running clubs, want to join running clubs. I know people have church families. I understand that folks have actual families that are like, blood ties, things like that. Children, parents, spouse, find somewhere that you can start implementing the small actions on a day to day basis. So I'll say this: start small. Start small for 14 days. And some of you are like, 14 days? That seems like forever. 14 days is very little time. Ask a high schooler that's on summer vacation right now. 14 days, it's not enough. All right. And I'm giving you this micro experiment just to try it out. So I want to give you one more thing. As I scribble this. Oh. Waiting to feel ready will always lose. Always lose. To effort. Effort is the act of deciding and taking action. So those of you that have been waiting, you're asking, like, oh, I don't know if I can really do it. I don't really think I can. I'm gonna tell you right now. Let me stop sharing this screen real quick. Action is always going to precede confidence. Confidence is going to be a byproduct of action. So if you start today, like I mentioned, taking 1 to 3 things that you know you already want to do better. Some of you are like, well, I wish I could just speak up a little bit more. Okay, try that out with the folks that are around you right now, at your house, with your family, with your friends, with your spouse. Try it. There are efforts that you can make right now, today, that will pay you dividends in the long run. And kind of while we're on this topic, I kind of want to, I know I'm about to jump a little bit, but I remember when I took on my first management role at Kaiser. And I had the same conversation that many of you are having right now. I thought more money, more problems. I don't want to deal with it. My life is good. I make enough. I get to clock out when I do my 8, I hit the gate. Like I would do all that stuff. And there was a lot of truth to that. Like, yeah, more money did result in me having to navigate different problems. Didn't mean that there were more problems, there were just different problems. Yeah, my days did go longer sometimes because I wasn't always an effective manager. And I had to learn and I had to grow and I had to develop through some experiences that got me to be better. There were even times where the person that asked me, I'll never forget, her name was Betty Flowers. Betty had asked me, she's like, why don't you want to take on this role? Why don't you want to do it? And I was like, I didn't have a good answer. I did not have a good answer for Betty. I was just like, yeah, yeah. And when she would ask me questions to like break down some of those limiting beliefs that I had to be honest with myself and just tell her, like, Betty, I don't know. She's like, yeah, that don't make sense. And I was like, you right. She's like, you're already doing great work. You're already a high performer. You're already showing up. I will help you navigate the workload side of things. I'll help you understand what the work entails. She's like, you already have the elements and ingredients that we need. You're good with people, you understand what's going on, and you're fair. Start from where you are. Lead before you have a title. I was already doing a lot of leadership work before I had a title, and I didn't even realize it until that conversation with Betty. When I talked to her, she was letting me know, hey, Kelvin, like, you ask really good questions. You may not know it all, but you don't pretend that you have to know it all, and people respect that. When you show up, you stay curious, you let other people do their jobs, you get involved when necessary. And I was doing all that before I became a manager within the organization. I was doing that long before. I was new, I wanted to understand, and so that's what I lived. She also gave me some really good insights too. She's like, being able to control your emotions is really good. Like these are some of the things that are showing up that I see. And mind you, I didn't work day to day with Betty. Betty was on another team. We were in the same department, but we didn't share the same space. We were on different teams. We were in different rooms. How our office was kind of set up. I had very little one-to-one interaction with her prior to her offering me the opportunity to go after this position. But something about my work, something about who I was, something about what was already showing up as leadership to people around me. I just couldn't see it that way. I was in my own way, just like I think some of you might be in your own way. And I don't mean this to be like a dig, a little bit maybe, because I really think that you should start pushing yourself away from the question of like, am I ready? And really start looking for opportunities to get your reps up. Like, how can I start leading things now? How can I start showing up that way now? What does ready mean? What does it mean? If you have an answer to that, now I want you to answer the next question. How are you not ready? And then once you have an answer to that, I want you to give me the next answer. What can you start doing to get ready? And once you have that answer, I want you to give me the next answer. What one thing are you going to start first? And once you give me that answer, I want you to answer the next question of when are you going to get started? If you can answer those questions, you're more ready than you realize to start leading. Leadership is not a feeling, it is not a readiness metric that you can say, like, okay, I feel the readiness. There's no ready radar that shows up and like you can, it's not like that. Yes, there are some fundamental skills that you can have. Yes, there are key terms that you can know. Yes, there are frameworks that you can execute and implement. Before you can do any of that, though, it starts with being mentally in the deciding mode of, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start leading. And if you can't think of any of those answers, if you don't know where any of that is, maybe you're like so far, like, can you at least lead yourself? Everyone's talking about, like, I'm not a leader, I'm not ready. Can you at least lead yourself? Have you been at least leading you? If the answer to that question is yes, then I challenge you again that you don't need to wait for a position or a title or someone to hand you something. You can start leading today and you can start making decisions that will allow you to elevate into roles and positions as time goes on. The biggest hurdle I see though with people is that they're not ready mentally. They're in this, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. What if the what ifs will eat your brain? Don't let that happen, people. Make a decision that I'm going to start doing something different today. I gave you a list of questions to start asking yourself. If you missed them, this will be on replay. Go back and listen to the questions. Ask them, write them down. And if you're really curious, like, okay, yeah, that's nice, but can I get an objective point of view, Kelvin? There's a quiz that I'll drop into the comments somewhere. I don't know how it's going to show up on this video, but I'll drop that in here. You can take it and I will give you an objective response to where you are based on how you answer on the questions of your own mind, your own actions, and the impact that you already feel you have on people. Again, the challenge is open for everybody. I think we need more leaders on the planet. We need more qualified leaders. And by qualified, I mean people who are willing to put in the work. I don't mean perfect. I mean people who are willing to put in the work. So with that, I think we're at about almost 30-ish minutes. So I'm not gonna keep you all too much longer. This just feels, I know sometimes these feel a little one way and I don't like that. So I'll be doing a webinar, what is that, August the 4th? So if you're interested, that'll also be a little bit one way, but I'm gonna start opening these ones up a little bit more. I'll probably put out a schedule for it so that you all can know the timing, when to show up, what to expect. And then once we get there, If you all know about it, then you all can add questions and comments inside the chat. I'm also even thinking about a different format altogether. Like I'm using a tool called Riverside right now, but that might not be the best tool to use. I'm kind of looking down at the screen to see how it's working. Or maybe I should share out that link and then you can all ask questions live and do things live if you all know what the topic is. So playing around. I know I got some direct messages from a couple of you, got a couple DMs about topics and things like that. So please feel free to keep sharing that. And I'll start integrating that as best as possible. Again, my name is Kelvin Jenkins. I'm CEO and founder of AP Business Collective. And I invite you and I challenge you to start leading like it matters because it does more now than ever.